The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, every whisper trembling with tension. The air felt thick enough to cut as the cameras rolled and the world watched. Judge Greg Mathis, a man known for his fiery words, sharp mind, and unapologetic sense of justice, was about to take on one of the most unpredictable defendants he'd ever faced, John Kennedy. But no one, not even Mathis himself, could have predicted what would unfold inside that courtroom, a trial that would start as a trap and end as a lesson that shook everyone to the core. It began like any other high-profile case. Kennedy, a small-town entrepreneur with a complicated past, was accused of manipulating investors and misleading a local charity. The public was divided. Half saw him as a crook, the other half as a misunderstood visionary. Judge Mathis entered the courtroom with his usual energy, determined to get to the truth and, if necessary, expose any deception that crossed his bench. But this time, he had a plan A to corner Kennedy, to make him reveal his true character under pressure. From the very first question, Mathis's tone was sharp. "Mr. Kennedy," he said, leaning forward, "you've been given every chance to do right by people, but every time, you seem to find a way to benefit yourself. Isn't that true?" Kennedy didn't flinch. He took a breath, his eyes steady. "Your Honor," he replied, "if standing up for myself and protecting what I built makes me selfish, then maybe the world's definition of fairness is broken." The room fell silent. Mathis wasn't used to being challenged like that, especially not by someone who wasn't afraid to meet his gaze. But Kennedy's words didn't come from arrogance, they came from something deeper: exhaustion, pain, and a lifetime of being misunderstood. As the testimonies rolled in, it became clear that this was more than a legal battle. It was a clash of two men who stood on opposite sides of justice, yet both believed they were fighting for what was right. Mathis pressed harder, trying to expose what he believed were Kennedy's manipulations. He questioned his business dealings, his motives, even his faith. At one point, the tension grew so heavy that a juror wiped away tears. But Kennedy never lost his composure. Instead, he began to tell his story, not the one in the papers, but the real one. He spoke of growing up poor, of watching his mother work 3 jobs, of learning to dream big because that was the only way out. He talked about mistakes, yes, he had made them, but he also spoke of redemption, of trying to use his success to give back, even when the world refused to see it. By the time he finished, the courtroom was silent again, this time, not from fear, but from reflection. Mathis sat back, visibly moved. His usual fire had dimmed into thoughtfulness. He looked at Kennedy, and for the first time, his tone softened. "You know, Mr. Kennedy," he said quietly, "I came into this trial thinking I'd expose you, but maybe what I exposed was something we all need to face: how quick we are to judge people by their worst moments instead of their attempts to rise above them." The jury deliberated for hours, and when they finally returned, their verdict left the room stunned: not guilty on all major charges. The decision wasn't just a legal win, it was a moral revelation. Kennedy had not only defended himself, he had flipped the entire narrative. What started as a trap had become a turning point, not only for him but for everyone watching. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but Kennedy didn't stop to talk. He looked up at the sky and smiled faintly. "Sometimes," he told one reporter who managed to reach him, "the truth doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to stand." And that was the moment the story stopped being about scandal and started being about strength, about a man who refused to be defined by accusation, and a judge who was brave enough to admit that even justice can learn something new. Weeks later, clips from the trial went viral. People replayed the exchange between Mathis and Kennedy, not for drama, but for the humanity it revealed. It reminded millions that every courtroom, every conflict, and every struggle carries more than one truth, and sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones fought to keep our faith in people alive. In the end, Judge Mathis didn't lose the trial. Neither did Kennedy. Both the men walked away changed, humbled, awakened, and aware that justice isn't just about punishment, it's about understanding. And for the millions who watched, one message lingered long after the gavel fell: no matter how dark the world seems, integrity and courage can still turn the tide.